of whatever, staying for sunset, catching a nice sunset. I still feel like I just don't do it as often. Woo! This is authentic, huh?
This is authentic. Austin Paz, who is the host of the Jump Street podcast and an absolute skating legend as well. I just kind of want to start all the way at the beginning. What the catalyst was to start actually rollerblading.
Yeah, so I started skating in 1996. Well, I started aggressive skating in 1996.
Okay.
I might have had a few years of like just messing around before that. I do have like a video of me. It's actually on YouTube. My first pair of skates ever. It was on Christmas 1993. So I was like 6 then, 5 or 6, something like that. Well, younger than that actually. 1990, my bad. But yeah, like other than that, I actually really got into it in 96. And that was like, for people who don't know, like kind of like the boom of aggressive inline skating at that point in the mid 90s and late 90s. It really started to blow up like other extreme sports like skateboarding, BMX. Scooter wasn't even around back then. So it was like completely different playing field. But like my first memory I have of skating was like, I remember walking out, I'm gonna paint this like a Hollywood movie. I remember walking down my driveway at home. It was like a summer day, the sun was setting and everything. I remember just seeing so vividly my brother, who's older than me, and like a couple of his friends just skating by, and like I lived on a corner house and they just skated and zoomed past me. And that's like all I remember, and I was like, I have to do that. It's so fun. Bring him around skating and shit, you know? So now that I'm older, props to my brother Jordan for doing that. Nice. But yeah, like it was when you're that young, you're so eager to learn. So it was so natural for me just to tag along with my brother, do what he's doing, learn as much as I could. And like, I don't remember any specific drive, but I think that was enough right there. I just idolized my brother probably and just wanted to be like him, do what he did. And I would hang out as much as possible with the sessions. Watch whatever skate videos him and his friends had. Cool. I would be like in my backyard practicing like stalling like a little curve in the back by myself, like without him even being around, just like trying to put my skates on. And yeah, it just moved from there. He stopped skating maybe like a year or so into my journey as skating. Okay. So at that point, that was when skating started to die down and numbers dwindled. Okay, everybody moved on to their own things, but I stuck with it. I found like some kids in my neighborhood who were more my age. A lot of them skateboarded. So I had like a few years where I just only skated with skateboarders, and it seems kind of weird nowadays for that to happen, but that's how it was. Nice. I stuck with rollerblading somehow, and just had fun with it. Met up with people later on, and just continued doing what I do today. Cool. Yeah.
Do you remember your first pair of skates?
Aggressive or just like any kind of skates?
Who was aggressive?
My first pair of aggressive skates were the rollerblade menaces. So it's a completely unpopular skate. Most people don't know what it is, but you ever heard of the Viking? So that was like the popular skate at the time, but it didn't come in big sizes. So the menace was the rollerblade version of that. So I remember it was size 3. So there's the Viking and the skate. That was my first aggressive skate. Pretty much all Viking skate. But before that, I had like I said, you couldn't get these skates with big sizes. My parents would buy me anyways, like Kmart or Sears, whatever it was. I had center, like the nerd, purple and black skates. I cracked the frame in like a week, trying with those. They bought me another pair of skates called the Blaze on their power buckles. And I remember also, I wanted to do the grill before, but the selling point was called power buckle, and it was just one big strap that covered the whole skate. That's all you needed. No laces, no. It was called a power buckle. Just one big yellow buckle across the whole thing. And I had those. I saw the commercials from them. I had to have them. My parents bought me them, and same thing, cracked the frame in like a week or two because they're not meant to grind that. Yeah. And then they finally got me the aggressive skates, or maybe they finally came out and did that.
We're gonna make this like a very easy, seamless transition because I'm obviously a professional. Yeah. It seems a little like the style of skating is constantly changing and ebbs and flows, and different people subscribe to different styles as a whole. The specific reason for that, how much of the actual skating culture is influenced by the constantly changing of different styles.
So that's pretty much my favorite part of skating, is that it is constantly changing, and there has been years or periods, I guess, where aggressive skating hasn't really changed. And looking back on that's probably where we were in the dumps the most, unfortunately. But skating now is changing more than ever. There's been an influx in people coming to the sport, like because of the pandemic probably also, but just in general as a whole. There's so many different genres of inline skating now. You know, there's urban, fitness, speed skating, hockey, recreational, aggressive. It's like, it's not just one that you jump into, you know, you have all these different avenues, and now we're all colliding together. Like, perfect example right now, like, you're more of an urban skater and I'm more of an aggressive skater, but we know we still connect, and that's like part of the joy of blending everything in together. Roller skating as well, tie into that also.
I think it stems primarily from the collaborative nature of social media often, but like it's just like people can enjoy the same sport even if it's a different discipline as a whole, and everyone has their own style. Like, I think everyone has their own, you know, discipline within the sport, and I think it's extremely cool to see that. You know what I mean?
It's like, I mean, it's just like, I don't know, from when I started skating, it's completely different to now, and even within, there's like sub-genres also within each sport, I'm sure. I don't know much about like urban or fitness and stuff like that, but with like aggressive inline, it's more, there's like weird type of wizard skating too. There's like mushroom style blading, there's regular aggressive skating. So even within the genre, there's sub-genres also, which also help amend things and are also influenced by other aspects of inline skating as well. So like the big wheels board, and I have big wheels on right now. This is all new to me, but I'm still trying to figure it out. I have a lot of fun with it.
I think you're crushing it, man.
And, thank you, man. I'm learning from people like you who actually know what they're doing. And, but it's great because it broadens the horizon of what you're able to actually do on skates. And I think that's where our sport will finally take off and grow now that we're expanding into other different avenues. There's so much more wider of a audience spectrum to
The next question, I'm going to ask you the question, and then we're going to start skating, and we're going to try to answer the question as you skate around.
That would be a little easier than skating around here.
No, here.
Oh, here? Okay. Do it.
Sorry, man.
Wait, this one we're doing while answering? Let's do it.
I'm like a little ambitious, I guess, but...
So you're just going to follow me around? I'll do like a little line and try to answer the question?
All right. Cool question. I don't even have to look at my notes because I know it by heart because I'm a professional. Growing up, who was your favorite skater to watch, and who is your favorite skater to watch now?
Growing up, I had, from what I remember, like 3 favorite skaters, or maybe 2. Off the bat, we lost you.
No, hey.
But growing up, I had like Louis Zamora was a huge influence, and Walt Austin as well. And I feel like it was for little people, because I was always a little guy, so I was into like little pro skaters and shit. That little tight style that Walt Austin and Louis Zamora had. That was always me, because I'm little tiny guys. Well, I have coffee friends.
I don't have insurance for this, Austin. We're
good.
Small budget.
We're good. But yeah, my favorite skaters were always little people with really good style, because that's what I felt like I related to. It was a long time skate where I had no favorite skaters really, and now. Talking about, I'm a fan of like all the new shit that's going on. So I'm like a fan of the Busted Lady Guys channel.
Woo! You know what?
Takeshi Yasutoko also, he's an old school skater, but
Dude, unreal.
that is like, I appreciate his skating now more than ever.
Really?
And he's definitely one of my favorites up there.
Yeah.
So as long as like you make skating look good and you're innovating, that's like people who are like really my favorite skaters now. And there's a lot of that now, so it's hard to choose. But
So you have some of the best landscape photography I've ever seen. And yeah, absolutely. Of course, we're good. And like I've seen shots in like urban environments over to like, you know, in the middle of like nature and all that. Which landscape you enjoy taking pictures of the most, you would say?
that's a perfect question because we're in it pretty much. Like one of my favorite things to do besides like skating, I used to just ride my bike around the city with just like my camera on my shoulder, and that was like it. I would just spend the entire day riding my bike around the city, nice weather, just taking pictures of whatever, staying for sunset, catching a nice sunset, and I used to just love that so much. I still do, I just don't do it as often. Woo! This is authentic, huh?
This is authentic. This is New York, baby.
Woo!
Very good.
But like, conversely, I love the complete opposite also. Like, because I grew up here, I love just being in the middle of nowhere also. Like, one of my favorite places I've ever been was Iceland, which is like, you don't get much more different from New York than Iceland.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, just landscapes, woo! Landscapes like you've never seen before, not even just in New York, but just like in general, you've never seen before. So, I enjoy them both, like, but for the most part, I love urban landscapes. I grew up in the city.
Yeah.
It's what I'm used to, familiar to. I love architecture, and it helps with skating too, because that's part of the reason why skating is so interesting out here also. Different architecture,
Yeah.
different infrastructure, all that shit. I love it.
Do you have a favorite building in the city?
Interesting. I used to always shoot, I don't think it was on purpose, but I used to always shoot like the World Trade Center.
Okay.
And I think it's just more like an accessibility thing.
Okay.
Like I used to, I always take the ferry into Manhattan. It's downtown. You can see the World Trade Center right there.
Yeah.
If you're in Brooklyn and Dumbo, same thing. World Trade Center's right there.
Yeah.
So I noticed that over the years, I had more shots of the World Trade Center than anything else.
Ah, okay.
But not necessarily my favorite. I like the Chrysler Building, my favorite.
Yeah.
Out of all the skyscrapers in New York, Chrysler Building is my favorite.
Yeah, it's like there's like something about the Chrysler building that is like authentically New York City. I feel like it's been there for like a extremely long time, and yeah, it's great. Woo. All right, let's flow here a little bit. See you. All right. That was question number 5. I see you, Cabby. You got plenty of room, buddy.
Yo, we're already on fucking
You
31st.
you got plenty of room. Yeah. Good. We got it. We got it. We got it. I think Austin's gonna become a speed skater
That
after
hill was
this.
nice. I know. I struggled so hard to keep up with you.
Dude, sorry. I'll slow it down. I like.
No, it's fun though.
I love that stretch. It's absolutely amazing. Who are a part of iconic sections such as The Truth and The Truth 2, the Kelso brothers, I believe.
Yeah.
And you know, you've also like been a part of Be Unique, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Fish highlighted and a lot of like phenomenal skaters. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. They're right here. Yeah, we're good. It's all good. But what would you say is a video part that didn't necessarily had a lot of recognition for that you're extremely proud of?
I don't know if there's an actual part where I get a lot of recognition for, but I guess I'm just based this off of social media pretty much, but like, as far as clips that get shared around a lot, there's a clip of me, I think it's the truth too, where I do like a true topsoul on this out ledge, and it gets shared all the time. I had like blue goggles on, but I guess so. Maybe I would say it's true too for that, but it's not necessarily my favorite section of me either, though. I don't really have like a section that's like stand out for me, but I did do a Create Originals online section where I played the drums in the background. And
nice.
That to me was like something I always wanted to do, even though musically it wasn't the best, because I did the bass and guitar, I think, on it too, which I
okay.
I just strummed on like a three-string beat up bass that was at my apartment. Someone left there one time, but just because I made the music for it and it was like 100% purely me, it was like two things I love merged together.
Yeah.
And I think the skating's decent as well, but for the most part, that's like one of my favorite things I've ever done in skating.
Cool.
And it's just actually original, and it was for Create Originals.
Right.
I can't like kind of present it that way.
Right.
But,
So Create Originals is a frame company, or?
Yeah, frame company. And at the time they were doing like each team member. It was like kind of at the cusp of when DVDs and Blu-rays started going out and everything was online. So it was like new at the time to put out online videos. And they released it like section by section instead of like a whole video at once.
Wow.
So that part was like my parts of the Create Originals.
Cool. And I really enjoyed some of your drum covers of, I think it was Roots and some Kanye songs and a couple Jay-Z songs.
Yeah.
Now we'll just
fuck that, I'm going on.
Stagger.
You got bigger wheels than me.
It's marginal. It's the same size frame. We're good. All right. So you play with only one tom. Do you subscribe to the idea that less is always more?
Yeah, I love that question, by the way, and this goes back to like what we were talking about on the train. Is like try to hit those questions like hot one style where you dig in deep. I wanted to just give you props for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a very interesting question too, because
I got you. Sorry.
I definitely subscribe to the minimalist lifestyle as much as I try to, but there is a limit to everything. But yeah, like the minimalist. I've even toyed around specifically with drums of like having even less of a setup than that, just to make it more simple, you know?
Wait, so you would like take out?
I would play just kick, snare, hi-hat.
Kick, snare, hi-hat.
I would play kick, snare, hi-hat, just 1/4 tom sometimes or whatever. I would just purposely take it out.
Yeah.
I think it's like a learning experience as well.
Yeah.
Which makes you focus more directly into certain things.
Yeah.
And then you take that knowledge, you take it to like an expanded, level.
Yeah.
That works with a lot of aspects in life too. I mean, especially with skating too, because I'm pigeon-toed into big wheels right now, as opposed to smaller, more aggressive setup I'm used to.
Right.
But it makes you think a different way, and it makes you. It's a bit of a struggle sometimes, but the struggle is good.
Yeah.
It forces you to learn.
Yeah.
And then when you do go back to whatever you used to do, you have a whole different mindset, a whole new vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I use that minimalist mentality to help me in those things.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way to think about it.
I think my drumming, Or did you look up all that stuff?
I do. I'm a drummer, actually.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this before?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
surprise,
fine.
surprise. Let's go.
Like your knowledge of drums is pretty well for like someone who might not have any knowledge of drums prior to this. But
It's New York. And here we have Austin's most photographed building in the background.
oh, yeah, there we go. Perfect.
There. Amazing. It means he's almost home.
I used to get so mad when I looked at like my library of photos and shit, and everything would be like World Trade Center, World Trade Center, World Trade Center. I'm like, damn, man, I gotta like do something else. But I mean, like, they just look at it, just
Yeah.
out like that.
No, it's
Can't-
beautiful.
Can't do anything else.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
I always compare, anytime anybody asks me anything about like what else do you do or whatever it is, like I always compare music to skating. And I know there's a lot of people who skate that aren't into music or musician in any way, but it's so comparable when you just take a step back and look at it. The learning process, like where you start from, drawing inspiration from people, it's just like they're parallel to each other, I think.
Yeah.
So I think it's natural for people who play music to do some sort of free action sport like this, as opposed to like a more structured sport like baseball or something, you know?
Yeah. Well,
music is so free. I'm a firm believer in that too, like mastering the fundamentals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
With any aspect of anything, but it's so easy to get caught up in admiring like the best person at the sport or activity that you do.
Yeah.
And you just try to be like that person immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
Without realizing
Yeah.
they had 10 years or however many years.
Yeah, on your right, on your right, on your right. Thank you.
I usually just jump over them at that point. But yeah, like just starting from the beginning, making sure you know how to like stand on your feet first before doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference later on. And I did the same thing in drumming too. I like was a kid and I skipped ahead and I wanted to be like my favorite drummers or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, oh shit, my technique sucks.
Yeah.
I have to take step backs and start learning rudiments again and doing all these things.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much more. And it's something I wish I did from the beginning. But it's the same thing with anything you do. Same thing with skating too. We were talking about that before. Like people who don't know how to skate backwards or and they just try to hit it down real or something. Yeah. It's the same thing in every aspect.
Yeah. I think we're gonna open up the path. You have been skating the UST Aeon 80s as your primary progressive head out. How are you able to do such intricate technical tricks on a skate that like doesn't really have an H block?
I think that's the joy and the allure of skating with skates like this for someone like me anyway. It's just something new and different. It's a new challenge. You know, I've been skating for 26 years, so it's nice to switch it up. You know, after all that time, it gets kind of stale after a while. Not that it was getting stale, but it is nice to switch it up.
Yeah.
It's always nice to think differently, and one thing that I always hated about my skating was the actual skating part. Like I mentioned this to you before, like I would do a trick, sure, but I would watch footage of me and I would hate the way I approached the trick. I would hate the way I landed it. And it wasn't a big deal to some people, but I guess I'm more critical of myself. And I feel like the big wheel skating, rec skating, urban skating kind of helps with that. It makes you feel a little more comfortable, you kind of cruise a little more. And I always wanted to get into it, so this was like a perfect way for me to get into it. I've tried like wizard skating in the past, but it was like so far the opposite direction that it was too challenging off the bat.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get frustrating too, because in all honesty, when I started with the wizard skates, it was like starting from scratch. Like I felt
really?
It legit felt like I was learning the skating for the first time. That's how different it felt for me.
Damn.
So it was nice and cool to feel that again, but it gets frustrating, you know?
Yeah.
So I gave like a few weeks or like a couple months ago at wizard skating, and I still like it too. But once I got these, it was the perfect mix of, you know, being able to cruise big wheels, do a little swivelly sliding stuff if I can, and still be able to do some grinds also. And it's been so fun. It's like, I feel like it completely revitalized my skating. It was like a breath of fresh air. Having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I hope everything I learned from these, I can translate well into aggressive skating with smaller wheels.
Yeah.
And it would be like a new generation of Austin, if you want to say, you know? It's something that like I encourage every skater to do. I remember I mentioned this on Jump Street podcast before too, that like Mike Torres told me once, you years ago. He's like, everybody should try a different skate because you don't know what's out there until you try it, you know?
Yeah.
So there could be a skate that's good for this, a skate that's good for that.
Yeah.
And you don't know until you try it. So it's like, why wouldn't you give it a shot?
Yeah.
It might unlock something you never knew you had the
Yeah.
power to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's exactly what I did with this.
Yeah.
It doesn't always stick, but this seems to have stuck for now. So
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it, having fun, and who knows where it's going to take me next.
Yeah,
So,
Jersey.
Not trying to get into the tunnel.
Not trying to go to New Jersey right now. New Jersey has its time and place, but it's not right now. You're in the fancy part of town right now.
This is nice.
Yeah. Feel a little bit out of my element, but it's all good. I'm hanging out with Austin. I'm good, you know?
Hockey moves and shit.
Yeah, man. That's it. Hey, man, I'm a one-trick pony.
Teach me a thing.
It's like all it is
Incorporate shit like that into my skating too.
like all it is inside edges.
Yeah, I gotta learn my edges.
So it's inside edges and then it's hip movement. So inside edge.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. You have to. We got it. It's like really opening up your hips. So you're gonna have one back.
You're gonna get real comfortable with that.
And then,
A lot of hip action.
yeah, and then like I like to transition. So I go, my back leg is inside edge, and then I transition over to outside edge. So it looks like this.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, and then like,
Is that called something?
I'm sure it is. I think that's just technique.
It's just like every hockey player knows how to kind of do that.
Most of the like stronger skaters, yeah, I would say so.
But you do that too.
Yeah, well,
Cool, like you transfer the speed on your end.
yeah, well, you're like,
Oh, I'm fucking scared to do that.
especially at speed, right?
Yeah, speed. I want to fucking come at a skate trick like that, like. I'm still learning all that shit.
Hey, man.
I'm a lot more open these days to learning all that shit. When I started skating, or even like 10 years after, we were so, well, I'll speak for myself at least, I was so just like focused on one type of skating. Everything else wasn't cool.
Yeah, kind of like purposefully identifying myself as a rec skater.
Is that what you call yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, rec is such a general term.
Right, taking something extremely seriously, then you're just doing it on a recreational level. So as a result,
everything we do is recreational.
Right,
That's
yeah,
why.
yeah.
It's such a general term.
yeah. Which like I like, yeah, that's the main reason why I skate, because I want to have a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's what we don't want to do.
like, yeah, man, I'm a rec skater, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
When you break it down, recreational is what? It's like whatever else got happen, you know?
Yeah.
Which is what we all do.
Yeah.
So, it is like a weird term, kind of like how aggressive inline was coined, but no one really says it these days.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I like everyone, you know, be like, hey, this is what you have to call it, or this is what you have to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
It honestly really doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
On a whole bunch of skate tours from Australia to the, I think over to the UAE, I think all over Europe as well.
Yeah.
We're good, we got it. Which place was your favorite to skate and why?
That was like my favorite ones too.
Really?
Yeah, and the UAE because.
Yo, I'm awesome at research.
Yo, you're so good.
Crazy.
I don't know what made it stand out in like my whatever I have online to do that. It's funny because the first time I went to both those places, it was in one shot.
Really?
Yeah, it was like the video of it is online. The whole trip. We called it the Los Dingoes tour. It's on Vimeo, I think. But we had a fleet to Australia. Me, Justin Bosco, my buddy Alex Carianis from Long Island, and Thomas Martin. And we had a layover in Abu Dhabi, and we said, it's like two of the most favorite places that I've been to skating. And I feel like it was two completely different ends of the spectrum. Like the UAE, if you go to like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, it's like, at least at the time when I went over,
Yeah.
it was like nobody skates over there.
Really?
So, but there's so, you know, the architecture out there, it's like
Yeah, insane.
Like, there's so much shit to skate. There's like no one skating there, so almost everything is fresh. Oh, now we're chilling. So everything is like fresh too, and it's like untouched. It's like skating a whole new planet for the first time. Kind of thing. Everybody there in the city, they never seen it before, so everyone's so curious. Everybody gathers around, huge crowds watching you everywhere. And then the nice people too is like people were like giving us bottles of water and shit when we're skating.
Really?
100 degrees temperature, you know?
Yeah.
And we're not like used to it, so they saw us suffering.
Damn.
But it was such like an amazing experience, and I've skated it twice, and each time it's just still awesome. And there's a little skate popping up there too now, from what I know. But Australia too, it's like that's the opposite. That's a place with so much history. I would say, besides like Europe and the United States, like Australia, some of the deepest roots in our skate culture.
Oh, really?
From like the 90s, some of the best skaters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so many of the best skaters from like the 90s and pioneers of our sport came from Australia. So, Fry, Tim Ward, John Crawford, all these people came from Australia. So,
okay.
It's very similar to New York. It's like, if you go to like Sydney, it's like a city, cruise around downtown, like how you do your Wednesday night skate and stuff like that. Like, they do this kind of similar things over there.
Cool.
The people there are awesome. So much history and culture in there. And I always said if there's like any other place I could live outside of New York, it'd probably be like Sydney or something in that area. It's just, I love it.
Started the Jump Street podcast. What was your initial objective?
It's like an objective. Well, I think we just wanted to be able to tell untold stories from, we started in 2017, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we wanted to tell the stories from the first 30 years since we didn't have that type of platform back then.
Okay.
It was like, I don't know, there was like a couple magazines here and there.
Yeah.
Whoa, I don't know how to do that. With the technology now, it's like easy for people to have a platform. And imagine how many like untold stories there were from all these people on tour, all the top pros that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Like I just think of my own, and I have a bunch. So like all these people who were like superstars at the time have all these stories. So that's like a main part of what we wanted to do was to bring more culture about the past and all this stuff. But I'm happy to say that it's become way more than that. It like, right now I'm more focused on the future and want to get more current skaters on there, have them talk about, or just have their perspective pretty much, have them talk about why they got into it, where they plan on going with it, their views on skating, because it's completely different from how mine and Billy's was. So it's completely changed. And we still have the OGs and stuff on it, but I think personally I love looking ahead to the future. And I love figuring out or trying to figure out where we're going. And who knows, we can look back on these videos 10, 20 years from now. When skaters are superstars and be like, oh shit, I remember this person said that. In like 2020 on the Jump Street podcast. It came true.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's an honor. Thank you so much for letting me